Okay, so we're going to be doing a yoga class today for people that are less mobile or just want to dial down their practice. Great to do it at your desk as well, so a really good variation of our stretches today. Working into a Hatha class, so we're focusing on static movements rather than that traditional vinyasa flow, so expect to be holding the poses for a little bit longer and really working inwards, understanding how our body is moving. We've got options for seated, and I'm going to be modifying as well. So if you do have a block or a cushion, big book, something like that, and a yoga strap could be really handy for you. Okay, so we're going to start up standing. If you've chosen a chair, you're going to be sitting on the chair. Coming into mountain. So mountain, we want our feet hips width apart. Same in the chair. Thinking about all four corners of the feet grounding into the mat, so making sure that the big toes and the little toes are evenly spread, and you really want to feel that completely grounded. Hands away from your body, palms facing away from the body, same in the chair. And from top to toe, we're going to come into a bit of a body scan. Absolutely close down your eyes if you want to. Firstly, starting with the crown of the head, feeling that lifting, like you've almost got a string lifting your head up. Next, work onto the chin. You may want to put your finger on your chin ever so slightly just to tuck your chin back, thinking about the ears and shoulders in alignment. Dropping your shoulders down, you can always give them a nice roll around if that's going to help you just loosen them up. And just gently let them fall down with gravity. Your chest ever so slightly is pulling through, the energy is pulling through to draw your shoulders away so that you can feel your shoulder blades drawing together. However, if you are already somebody that sticks out your chest, try not to overstretch and completely contain. We call it containing the rib cage. So you may be able to feel like when you're pushing your stomach out, your ribs separate. So you want to knit them together, and that's going to contain the rib cage. Coming onto the hip area, again, different cues for different people. If you're somebody that slouches like this in a chair, the cue is going to be to think about the thighs pulling up if you're seated, if you're standing, chest being nice and open and bright. And ever so slightly feeling like the pelvis is tipping forward. So like if this is a bowl of your pelvis, you're tipping water out of your bowl. But if you are somebody that already sticks out your pelvis, you come into this slight duck back, and you can even feel it when you're seated, then you're going to want to think about ever so slightly tucking that pelvis under, activating the glutes, extending these hip flexors. Again, working downwards, pulling up these thighs, really grounding through the feet. Your knees are actively pulling up. So even though it's just like we're in standing, we do have a lot of things to think about. That belly can be nice and soft, so we can inhale and exhale, really filling up that belly on the inhale and releasing on the exhale. Coming into some nice neck stretches now, so taking the right hand up and over onto the left ear, dropping that right ear down to your right shoulder. Breathing here. Allowing that left shoulder to drop further down, just with gravity. And using that right hand just as a bit of extra weight. You don't want to be pulling anything. Trying to keep that breath nice and even, trying to keep those feet grounded into the mat. Next, inhale, slowly switch over to the other side. So left ear, left hand onto your right ear, left ear comes down to your left shoulder. Making sure these ribs are still contained, you're not sticking out your tummy. You're active in those thighs. And that neck starts to feel more and more open with every exhale. Inhale all the way back up. Take both hands all the way up to the sky now. Inhale, reach the fingers high, and on your exhale, bend over to the right, so we're stretching down the left side of the body. Keeping the left shoulder nice and open, so we're not slumping here, we're keeping really open in the chest. Reaching the fingers further over to the right on your inhale, and exhale, see if you can fold a little bit deeper. Keeping on breathing, nice calm, equal inhales and exhales. Inhale all the way back up. And on your exhale, over to the left, stretching down the right side. Again, the same. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, see if you can fold a little bit more. Inhale all the way up. Final inhale, reach the hands high, and everybody's gonna come all the way down into a forward fold. So if you're standing, bend those knees a lot. If you're seated, just take that head over your legs. Resting your hands down as far onto the ground as possible, resting your chest all the way onto the thighs. Really hang that head. Take your head all the way down so you're gazing at your shins. Keep breathing here. Feel your head getting heavier and heavier. Try not to hold any of that weight with your neck. Allowing the back of the body to open up now, the back and the hamstrings. Grabbing hold of the opposite elbows, coming into your ragdoll, so your knees are still really bent. You can even take your feet so they're slightly wider apart so you can get even further down. And start to rock from side to side, sway from side to side. Nod and shake your head. Feel these movements start to slowly open up your spine. Feeling that mobilization start to be more active. Coming to stillness now. Placing the hands down on the ground if you're standing, and if you're seated, come all the way back up again. Standing people, come down to your cat-cow, so you're in your all four, your hands are planted underneath your shoulders, so wrists and shoulders in line, knees and hips in line. That's the strongest part, bone on bone, so that's what we want to work towards. If you're seated, you're going to take your hands onto your knees, and we're going to work that way, so you're going to be pulling your chest through for your cow, and then dragging it back for your cat. So hands planted, fingers spread big. Inhale, drop the pelvis, gaze up. Really pull those shoulder blades towards one another. Exhale, cat. Push the mat away, tuck the chin to the chest. Draw the belly button to the spine. Inhale again, drop that pelvis, gaze up. Exhale, push the mat away. Tuck the chin to the chest. Or draw that belly back towards the chair. Final time, big inhale all the way down, cow. Exhale, cat. Coming back to center now. Tucking our toes, starting to walk the hands back, coming all the way up to standing again. We're going to be coming into chair pose now. Staying on the chair, you can either have your feet apart, hips width, same as standing, or you can take your toes touching, heels apart, whatever feels comfortable for you. Coming into chair, big inhale, taking our hands all the way up. Exactly the same if you are actually seated in a chair. And really think about this core engaging. So if you're in the chair, lean slightly forward like you would be doing in your chair pose. Perfect. Work this core so it's driving to your spine. If you do feel like your bum is sticking out, pull the fronts of the hip bones towards your face. Gaze down, check that you can see your toes. And keep breathing here. You can come out of this and come back into it whenever you need to. Take your hands to the chest. Inhale, lengthen. And on your exhale, we're thinking about taking this left elbow to the right thigh, but really using the strength of the side of our torso, keeping the hands in the center of our chest. So exhale, try to take that left elbow towards the right thigh, keeping nice and open in the chest, so try not to bow through that chest. Inhale all the way back through center. Exhale the other way. Inhale back up. Exhale, twist. Inhale up. Exhale, twist. One more time, inhale through center, over to the right. Inhale through center, over to the left, good job. All the way up to standing, hands down to the side. Coming into our warrior one, and taking our left foot forward, right foot back. Your left foot is still going to be parallel to the front of the mat, and you're going to take your right foot back. Now if you're standing, it could be really helpful when you take the feet apart from one another to have them at hips width distance apart rather than heel to heel. Gives your hips more space. So if you're in the chair, you're going to face to the side. So left foot forward, right foot back. You're going to have to scooch towards the front of the chair to give you that space. So play around, feel where it feels comfortable so that your hip bones can face the front. If you're on the chair, your hip bones are facing the side. And sink down here. It doesn't matter about how bent this front knee is. What we really want to work is this back leg. So you're working the glutes, thinking about that work, going all the way down to the outside of that back leg. So that foot is pointed at 45 degrees to the front. And our hips are facing the front of the mat as well. This back leg is internally rotating, so it's rotating towards your body. And everything is active. If you think about these feet pulling towards one another, so you can keep nice and light and buoyant rather than just slumping into it, really squeeze everything in and hands all the way up. Breathing here. Again, like I said about containing those ribs, don't stick your ribs out. Think about pulling everything into the center. Make sure that both legs are working as much as one another. Come out of it, back into it, whatever you need to do. One more breath here. Exhale, come all the way to the front. Take some stretches in your legs if you need, coming on to the other side. So right foot forward, left foot steps straight back. Again, maybe you need to take those feet further out to the sides of the mat, away from each other so you can get those square hips. When you're ready, hands can come all the way up. Remember some of those cues. Back leg, so left leg this time is working so much so that outer glute is driving the outside of that foot down. Internally rotating through that back leg, so it's rotating towards the body. Containing those ribs. Thinking about those shoulders, we don't want them scrunched up into our ears, so just gently release. And most importantly, breathe. One more inhale. Exhale all the way back up to the top. Coming into our warrior two now. Warrior two is similar, but we are going to have our heels and heels in line. So taking our right leg straight back, heels and heels in line. This time that right foot is straight out to the side of the right side. And then you're sinking down through this front leg, making sure that your knee and your ankle are in line with one another. And the back leg this time is externally rotating. So you're thinking about this hip rotating away from the body. And sinking down, hands all the way out. We want to try and draw our hips to the side and our shoulders to the side, but your gaze is over that front arm. Most importantly, this front knee is tracking to the outside of that left foot, so towards that little toe. That's going to take a lot of effort from this inner thigh and also that glute as well, because a lot of times people will start to drop this knee in because of weakness here. So really think about pelvis tucking under, opening up through this thigh. Settle in. Ground through the outside edge of that right foot. Shoulders away from the ears. Just make sure that front knee isn't over that ankle, because that's going to cause a lot of strain in your quads. Trying to stabilize that knee joint. Final inhale. Exhale, step all the way to the top of the mat. Good job. Taking it on to the other side now. So we'll be taking our left leg back. I'm going to still face you, but take your left leg back, setting up onto the other side. So right foot back, sorry. We've got our left foot pointing out to the right side again in my case, bending through this right knee this time. Exactly the same, thinking about this inner thigh working to draw that knee to the outside edge of the right foot. Back glutes are working to drive down the outer edge of that left foot. Externally rotating this back leg, so you're thinking about this hip rotating away from your body. Arms out to the side, shoulders and hips facing straight to the side as well. Breathing here. Final inhale. Exhale, come all the way back up to the front. Take any movements you feel like you need. Coming into our downward dog now. Coming down to the mat. Setting up the downward dog from our all fours. Making sure our fingers are spread really widely. Now the piece that's important here is to make sure we're grounding through the thumb and the index finger. That's called the L's of our fingers, because most times you end up rolling to the outside. So we really want to be keen on grounding this part. The shoulders, you're thinking about those externally rotating, so away from your face to separate the shoulder blades so we're not all hunched up like this. And you can have your heels off and your knees bent. If you're on the chair, you're going to be folding over the chair instead. So you can get off of the chair and then just put your hands onto the chair. Still going to give you a really nice back stretch. So if you're in your all fours, we're going to plant our hands again about shoulders width distance apart. Knees, hips width distance apart, tuck your toes. Big inhale, drive the core all the way to the spine. So driving that belly button to your spine already. Ever so slightly, feel about tucking your pelvis, so squeezing your bottom in. And on your exhale, start to push the weight away from the front of the mat, pushing your hands into the ground. Until you come to a point where maybe your hamstrings are saying, okay, that's it for me. And you can stay where you are, hamstrings, nice and relaxed. You will be stretching through them. Knees bent, heels off is absolutely fine. We want that length of our back. Think about that energy driving through the hands, pushing down through the L's of our fingers, so that index finger knuckle, and drawing the shoulders away from the ears so you can separate those shoulder blades. And keep the core driving into your spine, so the belly driving to your spine. Breathing here. Allowing your neck to fully relax, your gaze just in between your toes. Come down to child's pose whenever you need to, so a kneeling position. Final inhale here. Exhale, look forward. Start to walk your feet all the way to the top of the mat, back to standing. Really slowly rolling all the way through the vertebrae to stand all the way up. Coming into a balancing pose now, so we're going to be using our mind and our body. If you've got a chair, stand by your chair and balance that way, or you can try it out with just by a wall, just if you need to. So whichever leg you feel more confident doing first, go for it. We're going to be still doing the same, thinking about that standing leg pulling up, so really active. Make sure these glutes are working so that we're not dumping into our glutes, we're pulling everything in. So we're going to take whichever leg you want, pull it all the way up. Give it a little bit of a helping hand to come in, so your sole of the foot is to the inner thigh. Now whether it's to the inner thigh, the calf, or tuck to your toes, and then the heel is resting onto just above the ankle. Wherever you are, think about this knee drawing backwards, so you're activating this bent leg glute. So you're really drawing the energy back. The energy is drawing up on this standing leg. Wherever you are, just don't rest your foot onto your knee, because we only want our knees to bend forward and backwards, not side to side. So rather than this, pull everything in, knee away. You can have your hands at heart center, or again on a wall or on a chair. Close down your eyes if you want to take a little bit of a fun balancing challenge. You're going to feel your feet wobbling around, but it's going to strengthen up all of those muscles and tendons in your feet. Staying here, feeling nice and lifted and tall. Keeping on actively drawing that knee away to the back. Final inhale. Exhale, really slowly release. Coming over to the other side now. So before we even pick up that leg, think about this standing leg, pulling all the way up, really active. And then go for it. Wherever feels comfortable, whether your leg is on the floor, the calf, or the inner thigh. Really work these glutes, drive that knee away from the face to the back. And this standing leg is pulling into the glutes, so working the knee is pulling up. Think about all four corners of the feet grounding rather than going to the outside edge of that foot. Now staring at one point, that's called our drishti, that's our gaze, our focus point, that's really going to help your balance as well. That's why when we close our eyes it becomes a little bit harder. Final inhale. Exhale all the way down. Starting to work our way down to the mat again now. If you do have a block, could come in handy, and a strap now as well. We're going to be coming into a wide leg fold. If you're on the chair, you're just going to take your legs out wide like your goddess squat. Yes, coming to the front of the mat so you can ground those feet. Perfect. So you're still stretching through the inner thigh. Now, if you are seated on the floor, and when you sit on the floor you feel like you're slumped like this, that's because you've got the posterior tilt. A block or something big to sit on is really going to help you because it's going to automatically give you a longer spine, allowing you to create that neutral spine and sitting taller. So whether you sit like this or on the floor, you do what is right for your body. Coming into the wide leg fold for us, so we're taking our legs as wide as you want to go, working through that inner thigh, nice and lifted, really open up this chest. You can stay here or you can start to walk the hands forward, flexing through these toes, leading with the chest rather than leading with the shoulders. Ever so slightly, you might want to stick your bum out because that's going to give you that tilting action to allow you to fold deeper. Breathing here, really using that breath, really using the inhales and the exhales. Inhale, think about reaching those fingers ever so slightly further forward. Exhale, you can fold a little bit deeper. Making sure these knees are pulling up to activate your thighs. That in turn helps our hamstrings to relax. Final inhale here. Exhale, walk your hands all the way back in. Taking that block out from underneath us. Coming all the way down to lying, grabbing that strap if you do have one. If you're in your chair, you're simply going to hug your knee into your chest, one of your knees into your chest. If you're lying, you can do the same, or you can come with me and come into happy baby. So happy baby, you're going to be taking the strap around that sole of the foot, however long you need that strap. Bending this knee, so we're taking the right leg first, and drawing that knee into your armpit. Flexing the toes, and taking that heel and sole of the foot up to the sky. Drawing that right shoulder into the ground, pulling that foot further down, that knee further into that arm, into the armpit, to the side of the chest. Keeping this left leg long planted into the floor. Breathing here. Exhale, release. Switching over to the other side by bending up that left leg, taking the strap around that foot. Right leg long, flexing the left toes, drawing the heel and the sole up to the sky. And that left knee down to your armpit, just outside the chest. Keeping that left shoulder drawing into the ground, in turn pulling that knee closer towards your armpit. Keeping that right leg long, as flat into the ground as possible. Inhaling and exhaling. Next exhale, fully release. All the way down, taking any extra movements you feel like you need Coming into our Shavasana, if you're seated, just come into a comfortable seated position, resting your hands onto your thighs and your palms facing up. Closing down the eyes. If you're lying, take your feet as wide or wider than the mat, allowing your feet to fall out to the side. Hands away from your body, palms facing up. Start to feel like your whole body is really heavy. Working in those muscle memories that we've been forming today. Feeling your belly nice and soft again, rising and falling with every inhale and exhale. Take the tongue away from the roof of the mouth. That's going to help release any tension building in the jaw. And actively let those shoulders fall further into the mat or further away from your ears if you are seated. If you've got more time for Shavasana, please stay here. If not, start to take some movement, wiggling your toes, wiggling your fingers. Starting to move your legs, taking that movement up into your hips. Coming into a really big stretch, hands out long behind you or all the way to the sky. Stretching the toes and fingers as far away from each other as possible. Staying where you are if you're seated. If you're lying, bend up your knees, roll over to one side using your bicep as a pillow. And with your eyes closed, slowly push yourself all the way up to seated. Head being the last thing to come up. Once you're in seated, hands onto your thighs, palms facing up. Grab your block if you need to put that underneath your bum just to stay nice and lifted. Allow that breath to settle down again, feeling the chest rising and falling. Take the hands to heart center in prayer. Bow the chin to the chest, thumbs to the third eye. Just take a little moment just to allow all of that movement that we've been doing today to settle into your body. And whenever you're ready, coming to the end of the class, taking the hands away from the eyes and starting to blink them open whenever you're ready.